Professor Saeed's violent Hello, hello. How's everyone? Let me move over. Hold on. Hello, hello. Welcome to New Perspective. I realize the worst part about this is not being able to get rid of all the dog hair that's around. But hello, hello. How is everyone? Happy Monday. Hope you guys are enjoying your work day, or if you're at school, then what the heck are you doing here? Go and study? Damn it. No, I'm just kidding. You can have me on in the background. The resolution hides the dog hair, no worries. Thanks. What are you trying to say about my camera? Okay. I might actually change my camera just because. Okay, so there's this person who was at my office and he asked for a new webcam, and it was a very expensive webcam. And I was like, okay, but it's gonna go towards, you know, your department, so whatever. And then I order it and I say, hey, I'm gonna keep it until I see you next. And the next few months, I think he got fired. Oh, rip. So let me know if I'm too loud, by the way. I have my mic oriented a little bit differently, so if I'm a little too loud, let me know. I can turn down the gain. Okay, good. That sounds good. Yeah, it's maybe bad for him, but maybe good for me if I can take that camera. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little rat. Whatever. But oh, let me go ahead and introduce myself. So, sorry. I just got into it. My name is QBJun. You can call me QB. You can call it's called recycling. Yeah, that's true. You can call me Jun if you'd like as well. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. Works for me. Whatever works. And I'm gonna be here doing some crimes and crafts. It's my series where we listen to a true crime story together, and I show you what I'm working on. Today I'm working on a diamond painting. I have been since the beginning of Crime and Crafts. I keep saying it, Crimes and Crafts, but yeah, so I'm gonna try to finish it today. If I don't finish it today, then you'll see it again next time. So let me address some of the earlier people who came in. Kat, if you're still here, thank you for coming in. Thank you for supporting. I hope you have a wonderful stream when when you start streaming yourself. I don't know what you're up to, but let me see if I can do a shout out to you. Let's see if I remember how to do it. See if Cammy taught me well. Hold on. 1758. Right. Is that how you do it? Oh my gosh, they're gonna have me log in. I'll do it for you, Kat. I'll do it for you. But yeah, so that is what my Crimes and Crafts series is about. We chill, we listen to a crime story, and we talk about it. We while doing this over a nice little project. You are free to come and craft along with me if you have a project of your own, or if you're working like Shammy is. You can have me on in the background. That's fine too. Trying to log in. Okay, hold on. My gosh. Okay, there we go. What I just do? There we go. Is that how you do it? Am I not doing it right? Oh, fuck. Do I have to just write it all out? Hold on. I don't know if I did it right. I'm sorry if I didn't. but go and check out Kat's channel. She is awesome. She's awesome. So yeah, please check her out. She's really cool. And I got to talk to her a little bit during Kemi's channel. Camilla Scarlet just yelled the person's name out loud. I am a cat lover 1758. Yeah, I'll try to figure it out. Maybe stream elements is just not on my side today, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and see. Well, let me show you what I've got for now. Okay, this is a new setup, so if it's a little weird with the lighting, I'm so sorry. And I'll lower this just a little bit because I know the crinkling may be a little bit much. Except for Shammy. Shammy loves the crinkling. This is the project so far. Is this a good perspective for you guys, or do you prefer the top down? Because I can change it now, depending on how you're feeling. Is this okay? I just figured it'd be better to... You can see my tea. My tea's on the side. Yeah, I figured it would show the sparkle. I actually have a ring light to the left over here that is kind of shining. And the reason why is because today has been raining, so it's been pretty cloudy, unfortunately. So not a lot of natural light coming through. But I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap our little project here. Put it on again if I need to. But for now, today we're actually also going to work. Yeah, I can't wait for you to get yours either. It will be a super fun time. You, me, Serena, it'll be fun. The other thing I'm trying to do is have this browser come out. What is going on? But I'll change it a little. If I let's make a new one. But yeah, hopefully everybody's day has been really well, going really well. Browser, okay. Oh no. Sorry about the scuff. It was working earlier. That's the part that's like astounding. Guys, there. Ah, there we go. Okay. Now we're here. No, that's a sneak preview. Cool. All right. Guys, all ready? Ready? Hello, Cami. How are you? Ohayo. Hello. Hope you're doing well. I am just starting. I'm gonna transition this over. There you go. I'm gonna... One sec. Oh, you just got up out of bed? Well, welcome.
Yasser Saeed's violent crimes against his own family were so barbaric that they landed him a place on the FBI's most wanted list. And this video explores the dark depths of his actions and what followed. Chasing the American dream, his concerning behavior began almost as soon as he landed in the United States. But as time passed by...
Can you guys hear it? Is it...
and his attitude remained unchecked, his arrogance would lead to some truly haunting actions.
No sound from the... Oh! Growing up on the... Were you able to hear the music? Very quiet. Got it.
Far beyond murder. Yasser Saeed's violent crimes against his own family were so barbaric that they landed him a place on the FBI's most wanted list. And this video explores the dark depths of his actions and what followed. Chasing the American dream, his concerning behavior began almost as soon as he landed in the United States. But as time passed by and his attitude
just maxes
remained unchecked, his arrogance would lead to some truly haunting...
Sorry about this. It's showing something different. Yes, it's like, oh, it looks good. It's actually louder than you are. And I'm like, okay. Okay, here we go. Let's start over.
Yasser Saeed's violent crimes against his own family were so barbaric that they landed him a place on the FBI's most wanted list. And this video explores the dark depths of his actions and what followed. Chasing the American dream, his concerning behavior began almost as soon as he landed in the United States. But as time passed by and his attitude remained unchecked, his arrogance would lead to some truly haunting actions, spanning far beyond murder. In the aftermath, Yasser found himself as a fugitive on the run, with members of his family supporting him behind the scenes. But what did Yasser Abdel Saeed do to get here? How long did he remain hidden for, and how did he do it? Religion is a very personal decision to make, and we are all free to choose who and what we follow. But when your beliefs start to negatively impact or even hurt those around you, where is the line drawn between religious expression and outright abuse? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to Coffee House Crime. Today we're looking at the case of Yasser Abdel Saeed, and it has to be said again that this case is so gnarly, it put him on the FBI's most wanted list. Before we begin though, and just to let you know that I post true crime and strange cases here weekly, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Yasser Abdel Saeed. Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Lone Star State, better known as Texas. It's the home of cowboys, Tex-Mex, and delightful southern hospitality. And with nearly 30 million people calling this place home, there is plenty of history to dive into. When thinking about the city of Dallas, sports enthusiasts amongst us will think of the NFL's Cowboys and the NBA's Mavericks, while music fans will know it as the home of Kenny Rogers and Roy Orbison. And of course, those with heritage in mind will think of the Alamo, a pivotal event of military engagement in the Texas Revolution.
I do not
Personally though, I just can't get my thoughts past that delicious Tex-Mex. It also plays host to Houston's mission control for NASA. The phrase, "Houston, we have a problem," was immortalized during the ill-fated Apollo 13 mission. But almost all other launches,
all the beads everywhere, or the cones,
have taken off from Texas. For our story today, we're homing in on Irving, found in Dallas County. With the city boasting a current population of just under 250,000 people, it was once called home by the Dallas Cowboys until their former stadium was torn down in 2011. Irving remains a popular place for newly established immigrants, and sports a community more diverse than the rest of the state. It is currently one of the fastest growing cities, and also generates a very healthy economy. And one of those families living in the suburbs of Irving were the Saeeds. Beginning with the main character of our case today, Yasser Abdel Said was born on January the 27th, 1957 in Sinai, Egypt. He was born into a relatively affluent family alongside two older brothers, and despite living a fairly happy and successful life in Egypt, his parents eventually divorced. When his father remarried, it turned out that Yasser and his siblings would be left without any financial support. Thus, they were forced to make their own way in life. After watching his two brothers emigrate to America and forge successful lives for themselves, Yasser decided to follow in their footsteps. And although he had originally moved to America on a student visa, this was dangerously close to expiring by the start of 1987. Around this time frame, Yasser and his brothers were all approaching
it's a
their
very
30s,
minty
and it's here that the first of many shocking details began to emerge.
Has anybody heard of this story before?
One of his brothers tried to date a 15-year-old named Patricia Owens.
Oh no.
And when she rejected his advances, Yasser tried to win her over instead. Rather concerningly,
15?
This led to a relationship between the two, and only 1 week after dating Patricia, Yasser then proposed
Please, take a
to her.
seat.
Honestly, there are so many red flags here already. Despite the alarming age differences, due to Texas law, the marriage was actually permitted. All they needed was written consent
I'm
from
allergic
Patricia's
to mint.
parents,
Oh, I'm
which
so
they seemingly
sorry.
provided. And although there did seem to be
Yeah,
some
I
caution from Patricia's
how that
family,
can be.
they were genuinely confident that Yasser was a good match for her.
Fucking
I'm
Texas.
really trying to wrap my head around this.
$3 coffee, by the way, Coffee House Crime. I see, Adrian. How dare
Following
you?
a brief period of discussion, the two eventually married in a Christian church in February 1987. Now, Yasser was determined to begin building a family together, and so by the time Patricia turned 18 years old, she already had 3 children with him. The eldest child, her son Islam, with his 2 younger daughters Sarah and Amina. Yasser was not a particularly academically qualified individual, and he mainly created income for his family by providing taxi services. Having said that though, his dedication seemed to vary over the years, and there seemed to be various problems with his employers. While most of his companies in his local area would eventually decline to even lease a taxi to him, his final employer seemed to speak quite highly of Yasser. Colleagues described him as crazy and unpredictable, and even those supportive of him didn't have many good things to say either. He was quite fearless, unafraid to work in the more turbulent downtown area and deal with the violent drunks. And by this point, he was known to always carry a gun on him while he worked. You can likely guess for yourself already, but Yasser was not a good man. And surprise, surprise, it didn't take long for issues to appear within the family.
And
Given
I'm not
that
saying
Patricia
that
had married
like
him at the incredibly tender age
facetiously.
of 15, it could be argued that it was already too late. Sadly, this poor young woman was already trapped.
I
And
was
over
reading
time, Yasser
actually
began to show his true
a
colours
little
as a bitter
Twitter
man. Feeling inferior to his more
where
successful
somebody was
brothers,
talking
he
about
began to
how
work overtime in order to
they
bring
live in
more money
Texas,
into
so
the
of course
household.
they carry a
Yet,
gun on
from
them for
Patricia's
self-defense.
perspective, she felt that he never earned
Even
enough
though
to
nothing
keep
has
them in a good
happened, like, they
position.
always
The
keep
eldest son, named
them, like,
Islam, was clearly favored above the rest of Yasser's
okay.
family. He was allowed to address his mother by her first name and was also treated with blatant favoritism. And by all accounts, Yasser himself and Islam were self-appointed as higher ranking than his wife and daughters. According to his
These
family,
photos are a
Yasser
choice,
was
yeah.
endlessly paranoid
3
and
kids
was
at
always
18, I
worrying that
agree.
people
3 kids
were
at
out
18.
to get him.
Odd,
These
huh?
unfounded beliefs resulted in him taking control in the only place where he truly
that's a lot
felt
for,
that he had
like,
authority.
our age.
That, of course, sadly
30.
being within his own home. The results of this dissatisfaction and unfounded worry would prove catastrophic for the women within his family unit. It wasn't long until a toxic pattern began to emerge, a pattern which saw Patricia reaching the end of her tether. And in 1997, out of desperation, she abruptly moved out with the children. However, she was sadly unable to stay away, and by March of 1998, they had reunited, with
Oh,
Patricia
no.
agreeing to move back in
Patricia,
with him
don't
in a
do
different
it.
house found in Covington near Hillsborough. Sadly, the financial situation didn't improve. Yasser began to work at a local store, and the family existed in near squalor. It was by the end of 1998 that Patricia left with the children once again, this time with Child Protective Services getting involved. And sadly, this was for a very troubling reason. In recent months, both daughters had confided in their grandmother that they were being abused by their father, Yasser, in the worst possible of ways. Obviously, the news devastated her. Police statements were taken
Looks
and
weird.
reports were made. Yet, despite the diabolical claims, Patricia was already faltering
could be
in her
said about
decision
your-
to leave Yasser. Despite the charges being laid against him, the 2 young
I guess-
girls eventually withdrew their statements.
Thanks for even
and
stopping
even
by,
said that
Ed.
they had lied about the abuse. Personally, I find this very hard to believe. I think that both daughters probably faced intense pressure or even threats to retract their claims against their father. But by the beginning of the following year, Yasser no longer had any pending charges against him. And just like that, Patricia returned with open arms and the children in tow. Shortly after this, another disturbing behavior in Yasser had become noticeable. He had begun to obsessively monitor his wife and daughters both in and out of the house. Shortly after, they began to work at a convenience store. It's here that he began to stalk them outside in his car, keeping a watchful eye on what they were doing and even getting angry when they smiled at strangers.
She can't see us from inside, right?
Oh.
Huh?
No.
She smiled to the customers.
Bubba, she has to. Part of her job.
She's in
With the
trouble.
customer. Imagine
Now,
doing your job and
every
getting in
responsible
trouble with your
father
dad.
worries about his children growing up, especially
Well,
a daughter who is just about to find her independence. But the way that Yasser was acting and
Get the fuck
behaving
outta
here
there.
was outright unhinged. It is worth mentioning here, by the way, that Patricia was actually with Yasser for all of these excursions. And with her passive reactions, she was basically
Like,
enabling
why
his
would you,
behavior. Without his
like,
wife challenging
stalk
him
your-
and, frankly, his disgusting behavior,
Unless
this sort
they
of spying continued both inside and outside of the
know
home.
that you
And
spy on them and they're
unfortunately, this
not
extended
doing their
way
job or
past
something?
basic surveillance.
I can
Amina and Sarah
understand,
became
but
too
you're
scared to
basically
even take
stalking
phone
your-
calls by their friends,
And it's
worried that
terrifying.
their father would be listening in the background. He was always there, lurking, just waiting for them to slip up. In his
Ava
mind,
Bumble.
Yasser was becoming very
I
unhappy
got it.
with both Amina and Sarah. His daughters were becoming too westernized for his liking, and
He
often
has to-
associated
yeah,
with
she
other
does have
American
to. It's
boys,
quite
which
service,
literally just
bitch.
makes sense in my mind. You did decide to raise your family in America, mate. It was during this time of over-monitoring that Amina had fallen in love with a local boy named Joseph Marino. During the year of 2004, the two had met through taekwondo classes, and although their friendship blossomed into teenage romance, they had to be very careful with Yasser around. The lovers learned to regulate and censor their text messages to prevent him from getting angry, and it was generally understood that Amina's father was always listening and watching. Amina began to write personal emails and poetry during this time, detailing just how unhappy she was with her life at home. She had grown
the
to be
romantic
increasingly fearful
poetry,
of her
and she's
father,
like,
with one
I am
email
writing
sent to her
poetry
history
about how
teacher spelling
terrible
out this quite bluntly. That email reading, "He will without any drama or doubt kill us." Found in one of her private writing books, Amina wrote the following poem. "My heart, an open wound, I can only cry. Don't try to understand, make me a bird, let me fly. I hate you, I hate your land, you've frozen my heart, let me die. Make me an angel, let me fly. Endless tyranny, round and round, let me go. Where can I be found? My pain you will never know. Make me a leaf, let me fly, let me blow. You hang on, you think you want me, you don't want to know. You don't know me, and here I don't want to be."
I'm also scared because her
Speaking
uncle
of
was
warning
trying to date
signs and
somebody
red
who was
flags,
15.
classmates often asked about the various marks
Like-
and bruises left on both of the girls' arms. All in the meanwhile, the pair made no
Been
secret of the
physically
fact that
abused
they were
too?
from their father, and yet still, shockingly, nothing was done about this.
Yeah, nobody
in typical
fucking did
teenage fashion, Amina and Joseph
some
had
type
plans to
of
run away
wellness
and
check?
get married.
Anything?
This was despite the mutual understanding that they would always be in danger from Yasser and his so-called contacts in
Like,
the
why did you start a
underworld.
family in the
Aside
US
from the
then?
intense
It's
surveillance
true.
in and out of the home, Yasser also started refusing to work.
Yeah,
unless the
I
girls
think
were either
that's
asleep
what I'm
or
afraid
being
of,
watched
too.
and monitored
I'm
by their
afraid
brother
that
Islam. In very stark
someone
contrast,
is
he
gonna
had full
die
trust
in
in
this
his son
situation
and none in
because-
his daughters. I find this part crazy, but he even tampered with Amina's
Because they
car,
wanted to be in
replacing
a
the
rela-
airbag, you know, that famously critical safety feature, with the recording device so he could monitor everything that was being said. This
He
was typical
replaced the
behavior of Yasser, by the way. Not only was he
airbag?
controlling enough to remove any and all
He's like,
privacy
I
from
will
his
spy
daughters,
on
but he
my-
was
my
also
daughter,
reckless
or
and
else
stupid
they will
enough
just
to
die.
remove their safety too. Unbeknownst to Amina at the time, but her father had already chosen a husband
Stay
for her in
hydrated?
Egypt.
I'm
And
being
although
threatened
this
right
is
now. I
typical
better stay
for an
hydrated.
arranged marriage, this is not something
is my
that
tea.
westernized young women are used to. No surprise, but she rejected the proposal outright, which did nothing but further
took a
frustrate her father.
earlier,
You see,
that's why there's
Yasser
the
would have received a
E-ring.
sizable dowry from
Little
the
tea-
groom, a payment from the family for her hand in
yeah,
marriage,
cup.
and he was planning on using the money to better finance himself for the next several years. Her objections meant that this financial arrangement had essentially vanished right in front of Yasser's face, and he rather viciously claimed that she had brought disgrace to the family, at least
sorry.
in his mind anyway.
What did she do? Sorry, I was too busy hydrating. My bad. Second.
reckless and stupid enough to remove their safety too. Unbeknownst to Amina at the time, but her father had already chosen a husband for her in Egypt.
Actually,
and although this is typical for an arranged marriage,
actually looked it
this
up.
is not something that westernized young women are
Coffee
used
is dehydrating
to. No
because of
surprise,
the
but she rejected the proposal outright,
but
which
for
did nothing but
tea,
further
it
frustrate her father.
doesn't-
You
it
see,
isn't,
Yasser would have
dehydrated.
received a sizable dowry
Unless you have
from the
something
groom,
different.
a
I did
payment
look it
from the
up, though. I'm
family
not
for
sure.
her hand in marriage, and he was planning on using the money to better finance himself for the next several years. Her objections meant that this financial arrangement had essentially vanished right in front of Yasser's face, and he rather viciously claimed that she had brought disgrace to the family, at least in his mind anyway. Outraged by her decision, Yasser began to look through Amina's phone bills in an effort to try and find out what she
caffeine
was hiding
dehydrates you,
or
yes,
who she
but
was involved
this
with.
tea is
And his behavior took a newfound low
green
on
tea, so
Christmas
there's
of 2007
not a lot,
when he even threatened her with his firearm,
green tea is
thus
actually
leading to the wife and
considered-
daughters fleeing the house once again. Alongside Amina's and Sarah's boyfriends, they fled Texas to stay with their aunt in Kansas, and afterwards found accommodation in Tulsa. What the girls really needed here was a strong mother who desperately cared about their safety. But
Yeah, they need a
sadly,
mother
Patricia
figure
once
that
again began to have
legit
doubts about
cares
leaving
about
the
that
family home.
instead of being
By New Year's
scared, I
Eve,
guess.
Patricia tried to drag her daughters back to Texas. Sarah reluctantly agreed to temporarily head back, but Amina, she refused. However, after heavy persuasion, she was eventually convinced to take the journey back home. And tragically, this would be the last time that her boyfriend Joseph ever saw her alive.
Oh no.
The last words to him were, "You failed us." January the 1st, 2008. It was on New Year's Day that Yasser took both of his daughters out in his taxi. It seemed that he was offering peace, because he claimed that
both
they were
his
going
daughter?
out for a drive to get some food and talk things out.
Or just
However,
one?
what would actually happen would be far, far more brutal. It was during this drive that at 7:35 p.m, a harrowing phone call was
Hello,
made to the Irvine
bonjour.
Police Department.
Clara, welcome.
What's going on, ma'am?
I'm dying, that's what's up.
Irving Fire Department. Ma'am, are you still there?
What the fuck?
Ma'am, are you still there?
You just said she's dying.
She's telling me she's dying. I've got a... Why are you still there, ma'am? Ma'am, what is your address?
Oh, this is
Bam.
not
Despite
okay.
the clearly
That's scary.
urgent and violent nature of the phone call, the caller was put on hold multiple times, and the authorities failed to ascertain and address or location right
Yeah,
away.
that was a
By the time
failure
the authorities
for
had found
sure.
the
What were they
taxi,
doing?
Both girls had sadly passed away from their injuries. Amina had been shot twice, and Sarah a total of 9 times. And as for
9?
their father, Yasser Saeed was nowhere to be seen. The story of Amina's and Sarah's deaths dominated local and national headlines alike, and this was for 2 very obvious reasons. Not only
were
had
talking
2 young
about
girls come to such a tragic
one of the
end,
daughters
but
dying?
the primary suspect,
It was
being
both
their
of
very
them,
own
Shami.
father, was now on the run. Although many
That's-
speculated that this
yeah,
was a
it's
so-called honor killing,
terrible.
the authorities would not publicly name it to be one quite yet. However, slowly, more and more began to believe it after the family's personal lives began to leak to the public's attention. No religion advocates honor killings. However, there are extreme cases where people will commit murder with the excuse of it in a desperate attempt to justify their own actions. This was apparently the motivation given for Yasser's unspeakable crime. He believed that he had been driven to kill both of his daughters to restore his family's honor, when, to be honest, in reality, he was just an aggressive piece of shit father. Following the murder of her daughters and the disappearance of her husband, Patricia seemed to be more concerned about Yasser's identity, and rather than grieving for the loss of Sarah and Amina, she made every effort to remove Yasser's association with the crime.
Oh my
As time
God.
passed by,
What a
emotions heightened,
twisted
and both
bitch.
families
Honestly,
and
she
everyone
did not
around
give
them
a
seemed
fuck
to
about
be
her
split
daughters.
down the middle. Patricia and Yasser's
Those
family
poor
were
girls,
convinced by his
actually.
innocence, whereas everyone else was adamant that he was to blame. This even extended to their funeral, where Islam shouted at one of Amina's ex-boyfriends, demanding that he leave. He further blamed him for their deaths, and even began a fight with him. In a move that angered many friends and almost all of Patricia's family, Amina and Sarah were laid to rest at a Muslim cemetery, which, to this day, still remains to be a poorly kept gravesite. Both women were not actually practicing Muslims. In fact, Yasser himself had rarely gone to a mosque or displayed any personal faith. However, Patricia, on the other hand,
Yeah, I'm
felt
pretty
it was
sure
the
a lot of
appropriate
Muslims
place.
would not
Another
want
poor decision
him.
on a already long list of bad acts.
Probably
of
not even
devotion
want to
toward
be
Yasser.
associated.
Yeah, just turn yourself in, and if you do, I'll get you a lawyer to help you out. Maybe they won't put you on death row, but you can sit in prison and think about what you've done.
In the immediate aftermath, Yasser seemed
He's
to
not.
disappear into
I feel
thin
like those
air.
type of people
And despite
don't,
friends and
they
family
don't
being interviewed by the
regret
police,
anything.
no one came forward with any information or evidence.
100%
What is
correct,
rather
no matter what,
strange is that Yasser managed to fire a total of 11 shots in a very busy part of Irvine without being noticed during or even after, which makes it almost impossible to evade without any sort of help or support. And although he may have had a pair
That
of
is
clean
wild,
clothes on
too.
him, he likely needed
Like,
someone
how did
to pick him
nobody
up,
notice? Nobody
considering his
heard
daughters were dead inside
12
his own vehicle.
gunshots.
But without any information
Come
on his
on.
whereabouts,
Well.
the case eventually went cold. And the FBI had to consider that perhaps he had fled the country back to Egypt. With this in mind, Yasser
That she
Abdel
killed your
Said was
children?
officially
Hello?
placed
The
on
way I'd
the
be putting it.
FBI's most wanted
Absolutely.
list, where
But
he would
instead she
remain
was
for
like
several
covering
more
his
years.
tracks?
And trust me,
Crazy?
many people wanted him caught,
Crazy bitch.
or even worse.
Or she could be just. She could be.
Despite this, nobody
Brainwashed by
actually
him
knew
and-
what happened to Yasser. It
Or
was
her
speculated
loyalty
that
was
his brother
him.
Yassine picked him up near the crime scene. However, with no evidence, no charges were ever pressed. Yasser's son travelled to Egypt shortly after the murders, where he then descended into an angered frenzy. The deluded man sent dozens of derogatory emails to Patricia's family during this time frame, always reiterating the same overall message: that his sisters died because of their own behaviour. Although Islam's visit back to Egypt increased the speculation that Yasser had fled the country, it turns out that he was actually a lot closer than they had thought. The truth is, Yasser never even left Texas. He was actually staying in an apartment owned by his brothers, and for 9 years,
Nobody
even after
searched
he was
that?
put on the
Nobody
FBI's
was-
most wanted
Oh.
list, he lived undetected
Let's
and
search
without
his
raising
family
any
and
suspicion
their properties.
whatsoever. Now, this is completely ridiculous if you ask me. The properties must have somehow been connected to Yasser's brothers' names in one way or another, and
Yeah.
it seems entirely absurd that the FBI were not able to follow some sort of paper trail here. Anyway, it was in August of 2017 that a maintenance worker was
A
carrying
lot of
out
people
repairs
failed
on
in
an
this
air conditioning
situation,
unit
including
within
the
same block of
911
apartments. It
operator.
was in that moment that, with the help
Hello,
of the FBI's
ma'am?
most wanted
Are you
list,
there?
that he spotted
Please
a man
hold.
that looked like Yasser. He
I'm
immediately
dying.
reported the sightings to the
My
authorities.
dad just shot me.
But by the time that the search warrant was
you're gonna have
issued,
to hold, I'm sorry.
Yasser had conveniently vanished. However, what agents did find left behind was rather interesting. Directly under the balcony of the second floor apartment lay a bush. And inside that bush, agents found a pair of glasses and dozens of
Please tell me
cigarette
calmly
butts.
what happened
Now,
here, right?
although Islam had connections to the apartment,
It just
he
doesn't
was
make
known
sense.
to not
It
be
just
a
doesn't make-
smoker. But his father certainly was. Forensic agents were able to demonstrate a novel technique known as kinship DNA analysis. And through this method, they were able to prove that these glasses did in fact belong to Yasser. After 9 long years of being on the run, they finally had proof that he was still in the country. Now, Yasser's case remained relatively quiet after this.
You were able
but
to
3 years
find
later,
and
2020,
pinpoint that it was
one
his
final and
glasses, but
crucial
you
breakthrough
couldn't
would
pinpoint
occur.
the fact
Various
that,
reports
oh,
had come through to
his brother
authorities to
has
suggest
fucking
that maybe he was
real
holed up in a
estate that
small
he
house in
has,
Justin, Texas.
he could be hiding
and
in.
although they were not entirely
not for a
sure,
second.
various local reports had suggested their sightings to special agents. The house was in a rural and isolated part of Justin, and if Yasser really was in there,
Okay.
he was well hidden from any prying eyes. After setting up a surveillance team around the property, agents eventually noticed Islam and Yassine entered the house with food, before eventually leaving with bin bags. And then, later on that night, they saw the shadow of a third man moving around the inside of the house. The discovery stirred enough suspicion to execute a warrant, and FBI agents prepared to raid the property. And on August the 26th, 2020, they stormed in to finally find Yasser hiding inside. At long last, after more than 12 years on the run, he had finally been found. The man was arrested immediately, with Islam and Yassine arrested shortly afterwards. The story made
Being an
national headlines
accomplice,
for a second
guessing?
time, but now people were not just reminded of Yasser's monstrous actions against his daughters, but also that an FBI's most wanted fugitive had finally been caught. And therefore, when his trial began 2 years later in August of 2022, there was no shortage of public interest. Now, despite Texas being a state that could technically enforce it, the death penalty was not sought for Yasser. His defense tried to claim he was innocent, claiming that society had, quote, been rooted in post-9/11 Islamophobia. Other members of the Saeed family would even deny it was an honor killing, claiming that if he had murdered his daughters, it was simply because he had snapped in the moment. But still, Yasser claimed that he was innocent. Apparently, he had the feeling that after
his family said, "We do not claim this man." Actually, they literally said, "We do not claim." He acted. They're not. Death penalty, electric chair.
After leaving the taxi, someone was watching him and his daughters where they parked, saying that he gave no real good reason as to why he left the taxi or why he even ran away and then remained at large for more than 12 years after. Sarah's
That's
frantic
true.
911
Why did you run
call,
then?
which
Why
was
did you...
recorded after being shot 9 times, was questioned by the defense. They argued that she probably would have been
It was an
confused and
accident.
incoherent due to her
I just shot on
injuries.
accident
But this did little
12
in the face of the audio
times.
transcript where she clearly stated that her dad had shot her.
I've
During
got
his
the
trial,
shakes, that's all.
Patricia
I've got the
confessed that
shakes.
Yasser had been abusive both to herself and to his daughters prior to the killing, even recalling a time when he had threatened them with a gun. Addressing Yasser in court, his sister-in-law, Connie McGeough, summed up the situation as best as could be expected. "There is no honor in killing 2 unarmed people. I call that being a coward. The only thing that you did to your family was stain it with your own family's blood. And now it is your turn to get what you have given.
This is a
A prison
sister?
that you call home." After only 3 hours of deliberation, Yasser Saeed was found guilty of capital murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and was incarcerated
sister
at the
gave it to
McDonald
him.
unit in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where he remains to this day and will die behind bars. In January of 2021, Islam Yasser Abdel Saeed pleaded guilty to harboring a fugitive, conspiring to harbor a fugitive, and 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice. He was therefore sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. In February 2021, Yasser's brother Yassine was found guilty of conspiracy and harboring a fugitive, therefore being sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Both Islam and Yassine are serving their time together in the Federal Correction Institution of Bastrop.
Great. An entire
Thinking about
family
it,
full
it is
of just
actually quite impressive to remain
criminals.
hidden for so long
Wonderful.
in such close proximity. To be on the FBI's most wanted list for a total of 12 years and remain at large is no small achievement, especially for the standards of someone like Yasser. Yasser's crimes make this one even more unusual. To murder both of your daughters is absolutely despicable, but what makes this strange is how much his wife and his own son stood up for him. Patricia's behaviour throughout this entire case is incredibly bizarre, though it does make you wonder. She was likely under his abusive spell for quite a long period of time.
I was thinking
now,
he was
obviously,
probably
religion was a big problem in this case, which
in an
is another
abusive
strange
relation.
side note actually, because Yasser didn't closely follow Islam. To add to this, he was even married in a Christian
while we're
church,
saying, like,
which is kind of
what the
ironic
fuck,
when you think
bitch?
about
But,
it,
like,
because the man was so adamant on arranging
he
a marriage for
probably
his own
got
daughter back
so
in
much
Egypt.
loyalty.
And despite allowing many Western traditions in his own family home, he decided this was an honor killing after they began to date Western boys. Honestly, there are so many contradictions to his beliefs. On New Year's Day
Got
of
wax on
2008, Amina and Sarah lost their lives at the hands of their own father. Amina was only 19 years of age, and Sarah only 18. Barely
Sarah,
even adults, they had their
no.
whole lives ahead of them, and were making moves towards creating lives for themselves. Lives away from their obsessive, abusive tyrant of a father. Before they could make it out alive, the family's volatile situation suffocated their ability to live, and eventually even cost them their lives. Neither Sarah nor Amina behaved in a way that any of us would deem unsavory. They were hardworking, pleasant, and likable young women that simply had the severe misfortune to be born into a family where the odds were endlessly stacked against them. They suffered under an abusive and controlling father, A man who spied on them, abused them, and tried to maintain his power over every aspect of their lives. They had a brother who was conditioned to understand that this was normal, and consequentially went along with it. And although they may have had Patricia as the woman that gave birth to them, biology aside, she was not the mother they both so desperately needed her to be. Saying that, it is impossible to deny that she also suffered under Yasser's hand. And with a severely underaged marriage and 3 kids by the age of 18, she very clearly was another one of his victims, and the longest enduring.
My dad
one
thankfully
at
isn't
that.
like this. No
The
worries.
reality is, though, that she failed her
Shami,
daughters
let's
at
hope
almost
that your
every
dad
single
doesn't bring you into
turn,
a
and every
car,
time
tell
that she
you
fled for
that
home with them,
everything
she
will be
always
forgiven,
forced them
and
to
then
return.
shoot you.
By the way,
times.
this was
Or
despite
9
the
times.
countless offers of sanctuary from her own family. Even after their deaths, Patricia's behavior was, quite frankly, terrible. She hampered all efforts to find Yasser and cared more about his image. And despite no charges being laid against her, almost every interview of her that I see displays her defending her ex-husband. To put things short and blunt, she had every opportunity to save her daughters. I guess being complacent and apathetic to the situation was the path of least resistance for her. Amina and Sarah lost their lives at the hands of their father, and were failed at every turn by those who should have protected them the most. Their futures were stolen by adults that could barely be described as parents, and Yasser's extended family made that even worse. And all of this
where is her
nothing
penalty?
but the
You're
most
right.
severe of
Where is her
tragedies.
penalty?
Okay, turn it off, Dad.
I'm not really sure what else I can say about this story. It's just generally sad all round. And even those left behind are not entirely innocent either. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this story, but given the nature of this case, I do hope that you're gentle to one another. Anyway, folks, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. So, as always, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to support...
How do you get... Uh-oh. Cammy? Sure, if you... But there is a new suggested, the Great Canadian Maple Syrup. I'm sorry, with you guys here, I don't have a choice but to watch that. But anyway, I was just gonna ask how you guys felt about that. That one was. I agree. Where is her where is the mom's penalty? Where is her penalty? She literally neglected them. She completely abandoned them. Like, come on, you know? Girls didn't. Jamie, didn't you say you were working? I'm just kidding. Let me see. To get this.
The car...
How's this? Nice. Trip of death. $1 million. You know, we can watch it not through. I'm fine with that. Yeah, let's do this one. Yeah, I was gonna ask first. I'm surprised the mom got no penalty. I agree. And the fact that she was, I mean, I guess she didn't do her because maybe she didn't know. I don't know, she also didn't provide him a gun or car. Maybe that's completely. She had no penalty. When you say chamois, my my auditory processing. I know it's you guys have matching names. They both. Yeah. I to Cammy. I said Cammy. So Cammy and Cammy. That's what she heard. Is complete just as bad. Yeah, unless like I guess the neglect that she had caused. But I mean, I guess her reputation completely. I'd imagine because imagine that being your neighbor or someone that you knew. Like it would be over. It'd be over for that person. They would have no social life. Nobody would want to associate. My mic is cutting in and out. Is it okay now? And maybe because I wasn't close. I was just saying that their social life because nobody would want to be associated with that person. Okay. Good. Okay, let's give me a second. I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors. I'll just take 2 seconds to go into the drawer and I'll have to cut this. I'm not strong enough. Wow, scissors. Yes. Up. 1 second. Okay, I didn't break it open. And I'll open this. Okay. It do again. Oh, no, it's because I was far away from the mic. It was probably because I was far away. I was like talking across the room. Okay. Okay. Everyone good? Everyone good? Everyone okay for the rest of the Tina is oh god. That's a big one, guys. That's... I'm gonna have to do it. It's cutting out while seated. Oh. How's this? Is this better? I just increased the gain. I should be a little bit farther away though. I might have accidentally hit it on accident. I might have accidentally hit it when I was getting up or something. Maybe that's why. Is that better so far? Good so far? Okay. Okay. Good. Uh-oh, got a cough. Hold on. I was doing that before getting up. Okay. Sounds good. I tried increasing the gain. I shouldn't be cutting out now. I have it on 1.5 dots. 1.5 dots. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Let me go ahead and store.
Located in Quebec, Canada, there's a network
of
it's
Quebec
reserves in place to protect one of the most valuable liquids on the planet. In
Is it
just
one of the
northeast
most
Montreal,
valuable liquids?
there's a warehouse that holds tens of millions of dollars worth of what has come to be known as liquid gold.
Liquid gold?
More than 20 times more valuable than oil by weight.
Wait.
This liquid is tightly controlled by a small group of suppliers that are responsible for producing almost 80% of the global supply of maple syrup.
What? What am I watching?
You are watching this.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm watching Disrupt. I understand.
Tonight,
Okay.
Michael Gavreau is on patrol. He's on site to conduct his annual inspection of one of the largest strategic reserves in the network owned and controlled by the FPAQ.
Welcome back. You came back with yourself? I know. You just announced
Gavreau
yourself.
opens the warehouse door and walks inside. He takes careful inventory as he strolls past the thousands of barrels that fill the warehouse.
Did you know that maple syrup is liquid gold, Shammy?
One by one, he takes count of each and every drum. Every single one of these barrels is filled with 600 pounds of pure maple syrup. Towards the back, Gavreau notices some barrels stacked on top of each other that he needs to get a count on.
Yeah, according to this is in 2012.
So he begins climbing up on top of the barrels to get a better view. But as he steps from one barrel to the next, the drum beneath him quickly gives out as Gavreau falls to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
The barrel rolls just a few feet before running into another nearby drum. Gavreau walks over to the empty barrel and removes the lid. It's at this moment that Gavreau realizes something is terribly wrong. Nearly 3,000 drums of syrup are unaccounted for.
3,000?
The barrels are in place, but the syrup is gone.
That is quite a bit, huh? I love the surreal
The drums
music
are
in the background, by the way.
empty. But how could this happen?
Very Outer Wilds.
This facility is tightly controlled, regularly inspected, with restricted access. The only real explanation was that someone from inside the FPAQ had organized the maple syrup heist.
Oh my god, another bumble here. Hold on.
2,750 gallons of sap is required to fill each 55-gallon drum with maple syrup.
Okay.
The sap is collected during a short window of time from winter to spring through spigots that are tapped into the trunks of maple trees. Only 3 of 13 species of maple trees contain the right sugar.
It sounds like an audio horror story. I know it was being played, but it's great.
The weather conditions have to be just
hard to believe that 2012 was 9 years ago. Don't even remind me.
Ideal conditions
feels
call
way
for
too close.
frequent dramatic changes in temperature, with nights reaching below freezing, while the days are warmer.
Does his family make maple syrup? Is it a pretty lucrative job?
At night,
would you say
while
in
temperatures are cold,
Canada?
the sap rushes toward the roots.
Because
of the
I'm not
tree.
sure.
While in the daytime, when
I'm just a
temperatures
filthy
are warm,
American. I don't
the
know.
sap rises back up the tree to fill the trunk with sap. This drastic change in temperatures creates ideal conditions for sap to be collected as it rushes up and down back and
I
forth.
think so because it's a long
inside
process.
the
That's
maple
fair,
trees.
yeah.
This is called sugaring season.
Sugaring
The window
season.
is narrow, lasting only from late winter to early spring. Once the sap is collected, it then has to be processed in the sugar houses. Here, the sap is slowly boiled down. Its boiling point is higher than water, so it requires a lot of energy to do this.
There's a lot of
50
land
gallons of
required
sap
for
will yield
this.
approximately 1 gallon of pure maple syrup as it simmers for days on end until all the water has evaporated and what's left is a sugary golden elixir.
Has anybody considered, just asking, has anybody questioned how do people even how do I describe this? For long processes like this, how do people even rate this process? Like, for example, baking, right? Baking is so intricate. Well, who in terms of how much yeast has to go in, how much of this, how much flour versus water and stuff like that. Who decided that? Way back when, who decided this whole process of maple syrup? Because it's so extensive, it's wild. All right, time to hydrate. I'm being threatened. Excuse me. Centuries of trial and error. I mean, fair, but it's just so precise. It is so precise. Wild. But okay, sorry. I just, one of those thoughts where you think about baking, you're like, oh, macarons. Or yeah, macarons, for example. They're so precise to get a macaron. If you're off by a little bit, you've screwed up. So it's just crazy. Anyway, here we go.
This process is both labor-intensive and seasonal. It takes time, energy, and resources to make maple syrup at scale. Not to mention, there is really only one place in the world where conditions are just right to make the highest quality maple syrup on the planet.
Canada. Oh, there it is. Your anthem.
Richard Vollier was the ringleader of the heist. Raymond Vollier was Richard's father. He was a maple syrup farmer himself, and he offered his farm to serve as the headquarters for the maple syrup heist. Etienne was in charge of selling the syrup. Sebastian would move the syrup to its final destination as the syrup trucker. Avic was the inside man. His wife was a part owner in the FPAQ warehouse where the syrup was stored. This allowed them access to come and go whenever they determined the time was right.
Oh, so he was right. It had to be somebody
Together,
who was
they each played a critical
inside
role in pulling off the heist. Here's how they did it.
An inside job.
The plan was as follows. Arrive
plan
to the
is simple.
FPAQ storage facility after hours. This warehouse isn't actively patrolled by a security guard, so as long as they have ongoing access,
Not showing Toronto
they
as
just
maple
have
syrup.
to not be seen. But the
Girl.
warehouse holds 5,000 barrels of syrup.
Because it's more like
Moving this amount of syrup all at
forests
once
and stuff, I'd
is just
imagine.
not
Because you have to be near
So
your
it has to be
trees, your
done
maple
in
trees for the
stages.
tappers and stuff, right? So
Doing this raises the risk of being caught. Not only are they required to revisit the facility each time they pick up the barrels,
dude, I love this music.
but they now have to find a solution for the missing barrels they're taking with them. Because even though there isn't a security guard, there are active inspections to take inventory. So they decide their best option is to return the barrels they take from the warehouse back to the facility right away. To do this, they'll need off-site storage. So each time they pick up a new haul, they truck it from the FPAQ warehouse to Raymond's sugar house. Here, they siphon off the syrup from the drums into the syrup containers and refill the barrels with water.
Go.
As soon as they're refilled, they then truck them back to the facility, move them back inside, and return them to the same spot they picked them from.
I screwed
While
up.
this
Okay,
is
there you
happening, Etienne is developing a network of buyers.
Yeah, forest and winter cold. Yeah, so it would be more north than it would be
not to move it
than Toronto, right?
This would raise more flags. So Sebastian trucks the syrup in small batches out of Canada and into the US. The remaining barrels remain at the maple syrup heist HQ on Raymond's farm.
Oh my god, they're selling them to my people. Disgusting.
They repeat this same process over and over. Thousands of barrels of syrup over a period of months. But this is taking too much time, and the risk of being caught grows greater with every run. So they meet and decide they need to move faster. In order to do this, they stop refilling the barrels with water. This speeds up the return process and allows them to pick up the pace of the heist.
Oh no,
but it adds to the risk of being caught.
Yeah, because a guy stood on those barrels and he fell because they were empty.
Of syrup valued at $18 million before the inspector notices the barrels are empty. A result of their decision to stop refilling the returned barrels with water.
Honestly, it is not a hard...
All great heist films begin first with a why. Danny Ocean was more interested in making a statement to Tess and seeking
in order to not get caught,
Terry Benedict, than he was about the money itself.
Why do this? Why not do it?
Jackie Brown is searching for her youth, and Kaiser Soze is determined to convince the world that he doesn't really exist.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
The crimes themselves are just a means to an end, but the money itself is usually just a symbol of what they're really after. For Richard, he wanted to make a statement to the FPAQ.
An amazing little documentary.
To understand
really cool.
what Richard was trying to say, it's important to understand what
it would be Sudbury then
really is. The FPAQ is an acronym that translates from French to English as the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers.
Dude, I love the Canadian
theme. In 1966, with the idea to protect the producers of maple syrup in this region.
Okay.
But over the years, the FPAQ...
I'm not saying this sarcastically, but I think that the Canadian national anthem is kind of a bop. I'm just saying. It's kind of a bop.
Has received criticism from farmers in Quebec and has been given a number of nicknames that illustrate how some feel about the FPAQ practices. Among these names are Maple Syrup Mafia and Maple Syrup Cartel.
Maple Syrup Mafia?
Many comparisons have been drawn between OPEC and the FPAQ. And there are a number of similarities. Both maintain a strategic reserve to control supply, monitor the marketing practices of each supplier, and control the prices of each commodity. For syrup farmers in Quebec, you're required to contribute a set amount of your final yield to the International Strategic Reserve, which is controlled by the FPAQ. This practice has transformed from what was originally intended to be a governing body that protected the farmers in Quebec to what many believe to be predatory practices. Richard Valliere, the son of a maple syrup farmer, decided he wanted to do something about it. He felt as though this system was preying on the good people of Quebec.
Get in there.
And his intention was to cause damage to the FPAQ. by taking back what he believed to be stolen property.
Damn. So he was
the end result was that
bitter
all parties
about
involved
that.
in the maple syrup heist were caught and prosecuted. Richard was sentenced to serve 8 years in prison in order to pay back $9 million to the FPAQ.
Oh man,
In the
he
end,
probably hated
the
that.
FPAQ remains the governing body for maple syrup. And the chances are that when you enjoy your next stack of delicious pancakes covered in true maple syrup, these were brought to you by what has come to be known by many of the farmers of Quebec as the Maple Syrup Mafia.
How do you guys feel about that? You wouldn't say that you have to sing it every morning at school? No, I still like it. Say his bitterness was unrefined. Ah. Yeah. Or I can't entertain you there. Oh, that one was interesting. That was really interesting. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about the Maple Syrup Mafia, aka the people who distribute maple syrup. True maple syrup in Canada. My fellow Canadians in the chat, I don't know how you feel about it, but the editing on this was really good. I know he was correct, and I also loved his music choices. Like, they were very suspenseful. He's making me have some ideas about about music for my Halloween stuff. And if you are not aware of the things that I'm planning on doing for Halloween, I'm pretty sure Cammy and Shammy know. I said Cammy and Shammy. I plan on doing some reading out some scary stories for Halloween. I thought that would be really fun, and having some spooky music in the background. So I think that was some good inspiration right there. Very intense, very creepy. Oh. Let me put this one in first. All right. So far, so good. Let me go ahead and show what I've got. Oh my gosh, I almost knocked over everything. So I'm just working on the bottom half of this. Move this before I spill it all over. Yep, just the bottom half. I'm sorry it's really hard to see. The lighting is difficult today, actually. Look at the sparkle. Okay. Alright, so let's do, probably should
Oleg
this long. We're gonna be getting like emails that are like, Jun, where are you? Will there be public domain ones? Sorry, I had to cough. Will they be public domain ones? Yes, they will be. If you'd like me to, well, I'm probably gonna do some research on it. If you'd like me to share them, I can DM them to you. Let me go and plug in my phone because it is dying. I'll go and do that, and I'll take a break for 1 second. I'm gonna give you some music first. Give you some music. Let's give you some music, huh? This one. This one's cute. Alright. You guys can chill here. 1 sec. Okay, I'm back. Set. Okay, let me just lower this for 1 second. Oh, and Cammy, thank you for retweeting a bunch of my stuff. You're so nice. Yes, for the poll so far, it looks like wings and water are even. They are both at 3, which is awesome. Within the next 24 hours, hopefully I get somebody who can break that tie. Unless they vote for the other ones, which is just like, okay, thanks for nothing. But yeah, let me go ahead and oh, you be quiet, then we can continue. Can't believe we're already talking about spooky season. Yes, we are already talking about spooky season. Because I mean, what else is there? Sorry, but not much is happening in September. I'll tell you. Labor Day? What am I gonna do? Woohoo, Labor Day! Anyway, okay, let's start, huh?
Sokolov was a highly respected history professor with a very dark secret. And although he liked
not labor,
the infamous commander Napoleon, this isn't the one I'm talking about. Oleg took Napoleon's character very seriously. He let his personality consume him, and would even select his partners depending on if they looked like Napoleon's wife, Josephine. And even worse, he would often go for his students more than 40 years his junior. But these concerning details are dwarfed by his most terrible of secrets, as life behind closed doors was so much worse than what he led others to believe. And tragically, all of this would end in modern-day murder. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to Coffee House Crime. Now, the details of this story will leave
a $4 pour over. Adrian, come on.
The ending does not get much better either. Before we begin, and just to let you know that I post true crime and strange cases here weekly, so if that does sound like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. And by the way, did you know that removing caffeine from your diet can help you lose more than 70% of your will to live? Now, if that sounds like a terrible idea to you,
Shammy, is that true?
Coffee, pull up a seat and get ready for the deep dive.
Yeah, Adrian has a lot of plaid shirts, I agree. He must be Canadian, there's no way. I think Bree is the only person that I know that has more plaid shirts than him.
Folks, and welcome to the largest country in the world. Of course, we're talking about the Baltic and currently troubled land of Russia. As the world's largest country by landmass, it is little surprise to learn that 145 million people call this home, making it the 9th most populous nation in the world. Despite the country's size, most of its population are scattered in and around cities, with much of Russia being covered with uninhabitable forest, plains, mountains, tundra, and even deserts.
I wonder why it's considered uninhabitable.
This place can be utterly beautiful. However, our case today takes us somewhere slightly more urban, and more specifically to Russia's second largest city.
I think because
cultural capital of St. Petersburg.
I think because Russia is inhabitable for some places, it's actually keeping Earth alive because nobody is able to actually live there or mess with it.
And let's not forget its stunning old architecture. Stop off at the city's many traditional eateries, and you can try out the many varied Russian delicacies.
Call it
beef stroganoff, borscht, and even blini. Which,
wait,
of course,
beef stroganoff
is
is
the formal name for the tiny Russian pancakes. Is anyone else suddenly feeling a little hungry? It is here along the.
I had no idea. I don't know why I thought it was German.
The primary focus of today's case, that being 24-year-old postgraduate student.
Well, my apologies, Russia. My apologies.
Born on April the 26th, 1995, to her mother Galina.
I think a good portion of Russia's tundra. I see.
Star of Starovelishkovskaya, which can be found in the far south of Russia near Crimea. Her father was a teacher and her mother worked for the local police force, which meant that, alongside her brother, Anastasia was brought up in a rather well-off household that believed in the value of community.
She's so pretty.
She was an extremely bright child, was naturally very happy,
Okay,
and
but
even loved going to school. Everyone could see that she was smart too.
there's some Photoshop in that, I can definitely tell. But she's still pretty.
Adulthood, she always had a deep passion for history.
It's just unnecessary. Unnecessary.
A recognized historian in the future.
You can love
Of
yourself,
high school,
Anastasia.
let her enroll at St. Petersburg
Love yourself.
University. It was here that she excelled
You don't
in
need
her
that
studies into
Photoshop.
history, and being one more step specific, researching French history. Friends described her as bright and talented, and had a real passion for her work. In fact, Anastasia was so obsessed with history that she often dressed up and roleplayed as famous historical people, creating her own costumes in the process.
She was a cosplayer?
But
Okay.
less fantasy and more Marie Antoinette. It is fairly safe to say that she lived and breathed history.
Well, I
and
love that
assimilated
because
her profession and studies into her friends and hobbies.
I
She was
love,
so proficient at school that she
or
eventually
used
became an
to
assistant
love
to a
Lolita
professor
clothing
who
and stuff. I
made
used to wear it, and I thought
and
it
between
just
the
looked
two,
really
they would
pretty.
go on to co-author several books and papers together.
Oh,
However,
wow.
it is here that the story becomes a little unusual, because Anastasia found that she had many things in common with Oleg. Oleg had many fascinating stories to share with Anastasia, but to add to this, they both had a very deep interest in historical roleplay. Now, I can already hear you asking the question, and yes, this did extend into the bedroom.
What?
Oleg was absolutely fascinated and obsessed with Napoleon, and apparently he played this character well on the streets and under the sheets. Oleg was very charming for his age and knew how to flirt with women.
What
And
the
after Anastasia
fuck?
graduated, the two became very, very close. And despite him being old enough to be her grandfather, their relationship would eventually turn romantic and then sexual. Looking a little closer
Oh,
into this
Anastasia.
man for a second, Oleg Sokolov was born in 1956 and was 63 years old in the year 2019, which is the year our story takes place. He was an extremely well-recognized figure in the world of historical studies and, much like Anastasia, was fascinated by French history in particular. More specifically, he was
Underneath?
quite literally obsessed with
alright then.
Napoleon's era. Oleg dedicated his studies to this time in French history, and he was so proficient in it that he had a bout of lecturing at the world-renowned Sorbonne University. Notable alumni of this establishment include Marie Curie, the first woman to ever be awarded a Nobel Prize for her research into radioactivity. And for all you true crime buffs out there, we have been here before with a case of
All kinds of role playing, I guess,
being
yeah.
literally qualified enough to teach
Clearly,
the French
yeah.
their own history, he really must have known his stuff. And this became abundantly clear when he received the highly acclaimed French Legion of Honor for his contributions to the field. He made his whole life about his passion, both his professional life and even his personal one. Back to his roleplay, Oleg was one of the founding members of the reenactment events in Russia, arranging extravagant balls, picnics, and parties for people to show
Oh,
off their
wow.
best period costumes.
I mean, honestly, that's
Now,
kind of
all
cool,
this
though.
is a form of live-action roleplay, or LARP for short. But instead of playing as a barbarian or an elf, the character that you're portraying is an aristocratic bachelor born in 1806. And when I say that Oleg took this hobby very seriously, I mean it. He collected historical artifacts with the sole purpose of using them in his reenactments, and invested huge sums of money into organizing the events, even taking to horseback to really drive the illusion home. Oleg often portrayed himself
That's
as
pretty
Napoleon
impressive, though.
Bonaparte, which, as many of you will know, is the infamous military commander and historical political figure. The professor was a total fanboy for Napoleon, and of course, someone as self-important and powerful as Oleg had to play a fitting character. Napoleon was his favorite thing to study, and the man even had a carved bust of the commander in his upmarket St. Petersburg apartment.
Oh, wow.
All in
Actually,
all,
there's a
Oleg was
movie
an
coming
intelligent,
out for
affluent,
Napoleon, and I thought that it was
well-recognized
actually
man who
pretty
let his work
cool.
seep into his social
I'd be
and
interested in watching it.
and this enamored Anastasia. She was working with one of the most recognized individuals in her field, which means, of course, she couldn't help but feel infatuated. Curiously enough,
Starstruck. She was just starstruck.
being a petite brunette, she was just like Napoleon's own wife, Josephine. Now this was no coincidence, by the way. His preferences seemed to follow a pattern, and Oleg often charmed young women that he thought could be his own Josephine. This mentality
Oh,
didn't seem
God.
to alarm Anastasia either.
He had
In
a
fact,
fetish?
She embraced it. And at his many reenactment parties, she would be in fitting costume alongside him. He became her Napoleon.
Oh,
and she
yuck.
was his Josephine. They would often dance, drink, and enjoy each other's company, all while dressed as their historical counterparts. Now, it was clear that Oleg had a certain aura about him, and a very self-important one at that. While in costume and even out of it at social events, he insisted that everyone address him as sire. This included Anastasia, who was all too happy to oblige. However, Anastasia was not the first young woman to fall for his charms.
What?
Because little did she know that he'd actually tried to establish several other relationships with students before.
She has competition?
Historians at special dinner parties. And apparently, after one of these events, he tried to kiss one of his students quite aggressively. As with anyone in this situation, it is often difficult to refuse someone with so much recognition and influence. The power dynamic is intimidating, and Oleg was aware of that. In fact, many students complained about his
I forgot.
welfare team.
To
fall on deaf ears with no further action being taken.
I forget what it's called. That power dynamic, almost feeling like you're trapped. I forgot what it was called.
And unfortunately, this even worked with some of them.
But it is a type of abuse.
Katerina Ivanova. But it didn't last very long. The relationship was far from healthy, and Oleg was extremely abusive towards her. He forced his interests and hobbies onto her, told her how to dress and who she could talk to, and even isolated her from her friends and family, until her life was exclusively revolving around him. He further demanded that she salute him whenever she saw him.
Salute him?
When things became physically abusive, Ekaterina decided that enough was enough. By the way, this wasn't the only reason she wanted to leave. It was around this time that she found out the shocking truth about Oleg, because the man was actually already married.
What? He was married already? Oh my god.
She was restrained, beaten, and verbally abused. The incident was reported to the authorities, but once again was not followed up. Oleg was simply too well respected and powerful in his field to ever be challenged. He
oh
knew
my
how to
god.
manipulate young women and use their vulnerabilities to his advantage. And sadly,
They weren't
this
even
was no
like
different for
listened
Anastasia.
to.
After completing her undergraduate studies and moving out from student dormitories, Oleg insisted
Like,
that
do you
she
not
be
think that's
married,
like creepy? You should follow up with that.
Although Anastasia was flattered by the offer, she didn't realize that this was just one more step in Oleg's domination over her. Anastasia's mother desperately tried to talk her out of it. Aside from dating an old man, she realized that the relationship was far from healthy. I mean, it was pretty obvious, right? But
Yeah.
her daughter insisted that the relationship was right for her, and that one day he would ask her to marry him. It was shortly after this
Anastasia,
that he moved
no.
on to his not so humble abode,
No.
before helping him with his lectures and papers. Moving forward, the two were happy, or at least Anastasia thought.
Yeah,
But
you
she
could be
see the
happier.
increasingly frequent red flags, the cracks slowly forming within and throughout their relationship. Over time, she was slowly becoming normalized to intense pressure, all caused by Oleg's oppression. Eventually, Anastasia stopped going out to see family and friends.
I think that's also an example of grooming to a certain extent. She is young. Too young to understand what's going on.
Know that this relationship would eventually lead to an unimaginable tragedy. November the 9th, 2019.
Alright, I'm hydrating. I don't even have to be threatened. Hold on.
Most of the city slept on, while those working their night shifts continued in peace. It was on this quiet morning that a local taxi driver named Asvayan stopped on the edge of the Moika River for a smoke break. And as he did, the peaceful night silence was suddenly disturbed by the panicked shouts of a man. The shouting appeared to be coming from the river. Peering down over the stone wall, he noticed that someone had fallen in, and, as you can likely guess, the man in the river was Oleg, who appeared to be intoxicated. Oleg begged the taxi driver not to call the police, and merely to help him instead. However, due to the river's steep banks, there was no
Steeple's fingers.
to him.
Good.
Good. The harsh Russian winter, he decided to call the emergency services. Soon after, paramedics and the police arrived. And this is where the story takes a very dark turn, because after pulling Oleg out of the river, they noticed he had a black rucksack with him, and the rucksack was extremely heavy. With curiosity getting the better of him, one of those paramedics decided to look inside, And when he did, that is when he came across a very gruesome discovery.
Oh god.
Peering down, he saw 2 human arms. And to everyone's
Two human
surprise,
arms?
this rather simple rescue operation suddenly turned into a criminal investigation.
Oh my god, he also dismembered her?
Police officers swiftly arrested Oleg, and once in custody, the authorities began their investigation into why the man had a pair of human arms in his possession. And
Oh, we're
even
just
more importantly,
role-playing
who on earth
Napoleon.
motive?
Don't you know
Statistically
Napoleon
speaking, the most
went
likely
around
victim to a
with
murder
just
is
human
usually
arms
the
all the
victim's
time?
partner, and it
They
didn't
weren't
take
real
long to
human
conclude
arms.
that. Tragically, the
They're
severed arms
mannequin
belonged to
human
Anastasia's
arms.
shame.
I'm just
Suspecting
LARPing.
that the river may be hiding a few more dark secrets, divers combed the riverbed in search of any more evidence. And after just 2 days of searching, they also found her legs and torso.
Oh my
Quick dark
god.
side note, but it seems that the Moika River actually holds multiple chilling secrets. During their search, a skeleton of an unidentified man was recovered, and to this day,
Oh, man.
no one knows who he is. I guess
They're
you
just
never
finding all
know
types of
what
treasure
lurks
down
just
there, huh?
below the surface. Delving into their investigation, through a combination of Oleg's own testimony, surveillance footage, and accounts from those close to
There we
Anastasia,
go.
we can create a hazy but understandable sequence of events, all of which leading to the demise of the young woman. It was 2 days prior to the discovery of her remains on November the 7th that Anastasia called her brother after an argument with Oleg. Audibly upset on the phone call, she claimed that he had hit her after she asked to go to a friend's birthday party. Now, the family knew that things were
What?
complicated between the pair, but they didn't really know how badly things had deteriorated. Soon after their first phone call, she called her brother again. But this time, Anastasia sounded artificial and robotic. She told him that the situation had been fixed and that there
Oh,
was no
God.
need to worry. But of course,
No,
this
she's
was
in-
all just a cover-up.
Yeah,
The fighting
she's
was still ongoing.
clearly,
Oleg had simply
like-
forced her to lie to her family. He further
Yeah.
accused her of cheating on him and that her friend's party was a mere excuse to see another man. Sadly, as the argument heated
Yes,
up,
you
so did
might
the
see
fight.
other
Being
men
a
at a
historical
party.
reenactor,
That's
it was no
crazy,
surprise
but
that many
it's a
of the items
party.
he collected was weapons.
It is
And
a
so,
party.
in a fit of rage, he took off a sawn-off shotgun from the wall and fired it directly at Anastasia. The
What?
first shot was not enough to kill her. Oleg reloaded the shotgun
Oh,
several
no.
times, taking a total of 4 shots at the woman before she finally succumbed to her injuries.
That is horrific.
Not knowing what to do with the body, he then crudely dragged it into the next room, and after stuffing it
Over
into
a
the bed,
friend's
he then
birthday
thought about what his
party. Are you
next
kidding
plan
me?
should be. However, Oleg
Maybe you
clearly
shouldn't
was in
date
no
women to
rush
satisfy your
all,
cosplay
because the very
fantasy.
next day, he even
Yeah.
hosted a party in his apartment, and while his friends enjoyed drinks and light bites, Anastasia's lifeless body lay in the next room. Later that night, and as you can likely guess, in a cognac-induced stupor, Oleg finally decided what he was going to do, and it involved a saw and a kitchen knife. After Anastasia had been dismembered, he then put her into multiple bags. He then planned to dispose of her body in the Moika River, which, conveniently, was just outside of his apartment. A surveillance camera located near the riverbank captures him disposing of multiple bags, with his first visit including her legs, and his second visit including her torso. However, on his third trip, while carrying the bag containing her arms, he lost his balance and fell into the icy river, where the taxi driver would later find him. Upon searching his apartment,
What an
authorities
idiot.
found the last remains of Anastasia. This included her head, which was wrapped up in an IKEA bag.
Oh.
During his questioning, Oleg claimed that, should he manage to evade being caught, he had ambitions to dress up as Napoleon, make his way to the Peter and Paul fortress, and then take his own life in front of the public, which to me is outright lunacy.
Dude, he still
what was
wanted
his
to be
justification
Napoleon
for
at the end of the
murdering his
day.
friend? Well, apparently, the pair got into a heated argument. Oleg simply did not want to share Anastasia with her friends, and Anastasia made a passing comment about one of his daughters. Oleg claimed that he was acting in self-defense. He told investigators that
Self-defense?
during their argument, Anastasia was the first one to become violent. He also claims that apparently she lunged at him with a knife, though knowing what we know, this is very unlikely to be true. However, sadly, we will never actually know. Now, at least in Russia, both officers and judges are often sympathetic towards men who are accused of abuse. Many men claim that they
Really?
are provoked into violence by their partners and are often wrongfully accused. Now, of course, this can be the case. However, Oleg's history of domestic violence did not support his claims. Anastasia's family were adamant that she would never hurt anyone, especially attack someone that she loved with a knife. this was totally out of character for her. And speaking of her family, the authorities entirely let them down throughout the entire investigation. Not only would they fail to contact her family at the time the crime took place or shortly afterwards, but her family would even find out by watching TV and looking online. Upon psychological evaluation, Oleg was deemed to be sane and fully fit to stand trial. They further confirmed that, at the time of murdering Anastasia, he fully knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he literally fired a shotgun, sawed-off shotgun 4 times.
Went on trial for the murder of Anastasia Yaschenko. During this time,
Sasuke would never let this.
to give their own impact statements. As you can
Sasuke
imagine,
would never
Oleg
fire a
stated
shotgun
his reasoning
4
of
times
self-defense.
at a
He
young
told
girl.
the judge that Anastasia was a perfect woman and was also good to him. But on that night in November, she became a monster and completely flipped from her normal character. He also claimed that he remembered nothing after taking the first shot, and that, after that moment, the entire night was a blur. He further spoke of how he planned to take his own life due to the overwhelming feeling
Sorry, I'm
of
just
guilt,
looking.
but needed time
Double
before doing
checking.
so he could arrange his will and other formalities.
Oh, I
This
found
is
one.
apparently the reason for dismembering and discarding of Anastasia's body in order to buy him time. Being an affluent man, Oleg was able to get the very best lawyers, all of whom attempted to get him the least amount of time behind bars possible. After all, he had already admitted to murdering his lover, so he was going down either way. His
Yeah.
lawyer attempted to minimize his sentence.
May as well
to mere 8
minimize
years for
it.
his crime. However, this plea ultimately failed, and eventually, Oleg
80? Does it
suffered a
matter? He's gonna
sentence
fucking die. He's like
prison
60.
for the murder of Anastasia Yaschenko, which, if you think about it, is still an all too short of a sentence. There are notable differences to this country's judicial system from the rest of the world. Murder in Russia carries a term of only 12 to 20 years behind bars, with only the
Really?
most severe of cases holding the possibility of a life sentence. Following
Murder
the
is only
sentencing,
12
multiple young women
years?
came forward to tell their own experiences with Oleg, and most of them followed a rather
Chammy, can your father please come out here and explain
However,
himself?
In the end, no action was taken against the professor, and it's rather obvious to see why. The man evidently had many friends in high places, ones that could look out for him and use their
Alright,
powers
I'm
to
gonna-
get him off the hook, so to speak.
Like
Despite Oleg's
14.
sentence being only 6 months above the minimum term, it is quite surprising to learn that he actually appealed after his trial. Despite his audacity,
appealed?
he did seem to be genuinely remorseful for his actions. Addressing her parents in court, he expressed his extreme guilt over his actions and wished he could bring her back to her family. He therefore repented and asked for their forgiveness, which, to no surprise, was refused by the family. Their lawyer basically
They're
told him
like,
to shut
no,
up,
bitch.
and his motion was denied. However, Oleg's punishment was
Dad, tell me about Russian murder laws.
He was detained at an unnamed
He'll be like,
His so-called cell has marble tiling and a cozy fireplace to keep warm. He also
What?
has exclusive access to a private library.
No
where he can
fucking
play
way.
sports. To add to this, there is a cantina with a fridge, and even social rooms where you can play billiards. and
Okay, this is not okay. This is
one of
better
these
than
social
my
rooms
house.
includes a flat screen TV, where he can keep up with the outside world and maybe even this video.
This
If you're
is-
watching Oleg, hi.
No, you say if you're
His
watching,
lawyers
you're
have
like,
stated that
fuck
his
you.
client has no complaints about his living conditions,
Crochet bag is now
but
posted to
eagerly
Burb
anticipates
Hub.
his release all the same.
Ooh,
This is in
well-
stark contrast to many other Russian prisoners of even lesser crimes. Take one
No,
of
I'll do it
Vladimir
later.
Putin's
It's fine.
critics, for example, named Alexei Navalny. Now, Alexei is an anti-corruption activist.
I'll check it out when my phone
He
isn't on the
was arrested and
charger.
jailed for 9 years due to his so-called extremism against Russia's leader, which included organized marches, peaceful protests, and an attempt to run.
Yeah,
for
I was
office
gonna
in order to
open up
oppose
a
the
tab, but I
corrupt
was like,
Russian
I
leader.
don't think so.
Despite this man winning multiple
I'll do it
awards
later,
for his
don't worry.
work on human rights, he was arrested and found guilty of contempt of court and embezzlement. Despite this being a much less.
Thank you for letting me know. I'll check it out immediately.
Absolute squalor. And I'm talking worse than Call of Duty's Gulag here. He was kept in a crude concrete cell with little to no furnishings, and had a wooden plank for a bed, which was finished off with a hole-in-the-floor style toilet. This is in stark contrast to a murdering, abusive, and violent professor who
Yeah.
was being kept in what can only be described as luxury, which just goes to show the
Literally,
corrupt ways in
better
which
than
Russian
most
laws
people
and
are living.
punishments are executed. This is
For real.
polarized to many other countries, where detainment and containment directly correspond to the severity of the crime and behavior during confinement. Oleg's status and notoriety gave him privileges throughout his life, helping him keep his job, avoid terrible accusations, and even avoid going to an insufferable jail
Yeah.
for the murder of another human being.
Literally
This
allows
isn't
him
just any
to
other human
avoid
Go figure
consequences to his
She was a
actions.
well-loved daughter, friend, and
You know?
young person who deeply trusted and loved this man. She gave up much of her life just to be with him, and the power he had over her meant she was never going to truly have the upper hand in any situation. She was isolated, controlled, and taken advantage of, merely chosen for her appearance and her willingness to become Oleg's Josephine. Those around Oleg say that the line between himself and Napoleon was often blurred, and when he was in character, it was as if he had fully embodied the historical figure. And although he was deemed to be...
Do you realize Napoleon killed thousands of people?
That he believed he was Napoleon,
do you
or
understand
at least
this?
an incarnation of him. With his fantasies, he
Do-
roped in a beautiful young woman to become a victim to his charms, power, and controlling personality.
Does this,
which
like,
ultimately
not
led to
occur
the
to you?
tragic and unnecessary death. Anastasia Yaschenko was intelligent, ambitious, and always tried her best to achieve her dreams. She was a well-loved daughter, sister, and friend.
Or during
to many
bio
throughout
break.
her life. With all of those around not
With
having
that
the
excitement
same
just now.
kind of
Oh,
feelings
yeah,
as
of
her
course. I'm
her
excited to
family
always
felt
see your
the loss of
work.
their loved one deeply,
Always.
and her funeral was extremely emotional. Always a hopeless romantic, her mother decided that she should be buried in a white dress, something she always assumed that should be there to help choose for the special day that would now never come.
Her
Wrapping
mom
this
wanted
case
her
up,
to
I'd
get
love to know what you
married
think
so
about the next
bad, dude.
sentence, because personally, I don't think that 12.5 years is enough. To add to this, the absolute luxury that he's living in
I
is...
missed.
I don't even have any words.
You son of a
As it
bitch.
stands, and at the time of this video
5?
being
I think I
released,
already
Oleg
did
is set to
5.
be released from prison in May of 2032, and it's unlikely that this date will change. And that pretty much wraps up our case today. Thank you so much for being here for another
Me?
video by Coffee House Crime. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope that you stick
Good.
around.
We're gonna
for
have to go
coffee.
back and do
And
some. That's
yeah,
okay.
I think that's pretty much it. Thank you again, folks, and as always, I'll see you again very soon for another video. Until that moment arrives, though, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and of course, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.
All right. I think that's gonna be our last story for today, because I'm out of time. I've been doing work, but I ain't doing work right now. You hated that, you? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do. I mean, it's true crime. You know, you're always gonna have that villain. You're always gonna have that one person who you're just like, you're disgusting. Yeah, but it's fun. It's not fun, but it's interesting to hear stories like that. It's very interesting all the time. I'm definitely my blind ass, definitely. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's stories. And in today's crafting, I did a lot of pretty much like not very exciting areas, but I did like the mountainous area. I just want to finish F now. So what was everyone's favorite story? What was everybody's... I mean, you know, they're all bad stories in a way. You know, there's always something awful fucking going on. But of them, which one was the most interesting? Let me know. Thank you for keeping me company while working. Yeah, of course. Thank you for streaming. You're welcome. Yeah, hopefully this helped you focus on work a little bit more. Yummy. If you weren't typing in chat. No, as usual, I appreciate you typing in chat and being engaging. It always helps. Always helps me. Double checking all of these. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go back. Got some Z's, I've got some A's in here. My blind ass did not see some of them, but yeah, I got some yellow in here, which is nice for the mountains. And then I finished, oh, some of the little deer. Gotta bring this a little closer. The deer here, I put a couple of cones in there. I'll definitely take some beauty shots at the end and see what's going on. I don't know where I lost it, but my wax pad, I don't know where it went. I hope this little bit will last me. Probably not. Worst comes to worst, maybe I'll use the double-sided tape. At the end of the stick. I don't know if that'll work. But anyway, honestly, the maple syrup mafia. Yeah, I mean, technically nobody got hurt in that one, so that's kind of, you know, it's nice to just hear, oh, there's this crime that happened. It's kind of interesting. Not everybody's interested in the murder or missing people. I mean, I could do another one. There are some that are, how do I describe it? Where people get away from their murderer. I saw one where it was like this little girl actually tricked her captor and got away from him by playing dead, I think. And that one was a really good one where she played dead. And he, I guess, tried to dispose of her body. Like, he was bringing her body out because she was ragdolling. And I guess he had left her in the car or something. I don't know. Something happened there. And when he was gone to go and get other stuff, she fled. Which was, like, what a smart little girl, you know? I mean, maybe she thought, oh, this is what you do to convince bears that you're dead and you're safe. Because I don't think bears eat you. They're not, like, interested in eating you at all, you know? They're just kind of interested in defending themselves sometimes. I can do both, lol. Well, I'm glad somebody is so multi-talented that they can do such a thing. Let me see if I have any in here that I need. What was I? J, Z, B, A. J is 1. Oh my gosh, these are out of order. Thanks, me. Fuck. Alright, 4. 4N. No. Alright, I'm looking for 18. How's this? I'm looking for number 18. Not looking. Okay, can't find that. I'm looking for. B is 20. A, Z, V, E, and S. S is 16. Do I have 16? S? No, E and S. E is 6. I don't think I have 6. Alright, this one is useless. What I'm understanding. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys can hang out with me today. I enjoyed listening to these stories and showing you my diamond painting and how far along it's going. Unfortunately, we didn't finish, but we will finish next time for sure. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. I will talk to you guys later. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye, beelings. Bye, bye, bye. Goodbye. Bye, bye, bees. Bye, bye. Oh my gosh. Cammy said it before I did. Yes, bye, bye, bees. Bye. No, I can't. Okay, there we go. I found it.